The stars had seen many races rise and fall, but the Council of Elders remembered more than anyone else. They had lived through wars that had burned entire systems, through empires that thought themselves eternal but collapsed like dust in the wind. They had watched proud civilizations grow, expand, and then vanish into silence. Their duty was to keep order, to guide the galaxy away from chaos and to warn others when danger approached. In their vast chamber, carved into the heart of a hollowed moon, the elders gathered. Their voices were heavy, filled with caution. A new name had been spoken in their records. It was not a name that had echoed across the stars before. It was the name of a small, fragile species from a blue world orbiting a yellow sun. Humanity. The records showed their history, wars that consumed continents, inventions that defied reason, victories won against impossible odds. Each time they faced destruction, they rose stronger. Each time they were pushed down, they refused to remain in the dust. To the elders, the pattern was clear. Humanity was dangerous. Humanity was unstoppable once it began to climb. The stars must be warned, one elder said, his voice echoing in the silence. If they are left unchecked, if they are allowed to spread, no force will hold them back. But across the chamber, laughter rose. Younger members of the council and representatives of mighty empires dismissed the warning. To them, humans were insignificant. They were weak bodies of flesh, living on a single planet struggling against their own world. Compared to species that spanned dozens of systems, humanity was nothing. They are children, one alien voice scoffed. Do you fear children? They fight each other because they cannot even unite. How could such a race ever challenge the stars? The elders tried again. They spoke of resilience, of a will that burned brighter than suns. They warned that humanity would not stop once it reached beyond its world. But the warning was met with arrogance. Empires with fleets of 1,000 ships could not imagine fearing a race that still looked at their first starships with wonder, and so the warning was ignored. The council dismissed the matter as foolish superstition. The galaxy went on as it always had. Trade routes glowed with commerce, borders were guarded by endless fleets, and empires believed their strength eternal. No one cared about the humans beyond the blue planet, beyond the small moon that circled it. But far away on Earth, something was changing. Humanity had taken its first steps into the dark sea of stars. Their ships were small, their technology not yet advanced. But inside every human heart burned something the galaxy did not understand. It was not hunger for territory alone. It was not greed for resources alone. It was the unbreakable belief that nothing was beyond reach. The first colonies were harsh. Frozen rocks, burning deserts, endless storms. Worlds that many alien species would never have tried to tame. Yet humanity built homes there. They struggled, they bled, but they endured. Where others would have left in defeat, humans stayed and turned barren land into living soil. They smiled in the face of struggle as if the harder the task, the more determined they became. Rumors began to travel. A mining outpost destroyed by conditions that should have killed all workers, yet the humans repaired it and continued. A settlement attacked by raiders, but instead of surrender, the humans fought with tools in their hands and drove the raiders away. Stories whispered through the void, but the council dismissed them as exaggerations. Then came the first true test. A small human warship, the Resolute, entered contested space. It was not a grand vessel compared to the alien fleets. It carried fewer weapons, fewer defenses, and fewer soldiers. When it crossed the border, an alien patrol intercepted it. The alien commander laughed at the human crew. He expected them to surrender at the first sign of force. But the Resolute did not surrender. It fought with a fire the aliens did not expect. It moved in ways that defied standard tactics, as if its crew did not care for the traditional rules of battle. They improvised, they adapted, they refused to yield. Against impossible odds, the small warship escaped, leaving behind wreckage and confusion. The galaxy barely noticed the report. To many, it was a minor incident not worth attention. Yet for the elders, it was the first shadow of the storm they had warned about. In the following months, more reports came. Alien fleets clashed with human ships and found them far more difficult to defeat than expected. Colonies resisted invasions with courage no one understood. Humans used old machines in new ways. Weapons turned into tools and tools turned into weapons. Every time they were struck, they learned. Every time they were challenged, they grew stronger. The elders repeated their warning, but again the council ignored them. Too many empires believed in their own superiority. They had ruled for centuries, for thousands of years. They believed nothing could change that, but change was coming. Out in the black sea of stars, human war drums began to beat. Their fleets grew, their spirit hardened. The galaxy did not yet see the shape of what was rising, but the first shadows were already stretching across the stars. The elders sat in silence, watching events unfold, their hearts heavy. They had spoken the truth, but the truth had been cast aside. And now they knew the galaxy would learn in the hardest way. Suspense ending. Far beyond the Council's sight, a massive human warship left the shipyards of Earth for the first time. Its engines roared, its hull gleamed, and its presence in space was like a challenge to the stars themselves. Humanity had taken its first true step into the galaxy, and nothing would ever be the same. The galaxy had ignored the Elders' warning, but the shadow of change had already begun to spread. Across the stars, whispers grew louder, rumors of human defiance, human victories, human courage. At first, they were only stories carried by traitors and drifters. But soon those stories became official reports written in the blood of fleets. It began in a system claimed by an alien empire known as the Thal. The Thal were proud, powerful, and certain of their dominance. Their fleets guarded the borders with precision, their laws unchallenged for centuries. When a single human ship crossed into their territory, the Thal commander smiled with contempt. He saw it as nothing more than a trespasser, a fragile vessel lost in foreign space. That vessel was the Resolute. It was not large, its hull bore scars from countless tests, and its weapons were smaller than those mounted on Thal warships. But inside, its crew carried something the Thal had never faced. They carried the determination of a species that refused to kneel. The Thal fleet surrounded the Resolute. From the bridge of his massive warship, the Thal commander sent a message of surrender. His voice was cold and amused. "Lay down your arms, fragile ones. You are not warriors. You are not conquerors. You are children in a game too great for you. Surrender and perhaps your lives will be spared." But the humans did not surrender. Their captain stood tall, his eyes steady, his voice calm. "We are not here to kneel. We are here to endure. If you wish to test us, then test us. But know this, you will not forget the day you met humanity." The Thal laughed. Then he ordered his ships to fire. Green energy bolts ripped through the void. Explosions lit up the darkness as the Resolute shook under the first barrage. The crew held their breath, alarms blaring, shields weakening. To any other species, this would have been the end. To humans, it was the beginning. The captain gave orders that no Thal commander could have predicted. The Resolute moved in ways their fleet could not anticipate. It darted between asteroids, turned sudden angles, and used gravity itself to twist its path. Every human on board adapted, adjusted, and pushed forward with reckless courage. They turned weakness into strength. The Thal ships were stronger. They were larger, but they were predictable. The humans were not. The first Thal vessel went down in a burst of fire. The second followed soon after, caught in a trap that should have been impossible for such a small crew to create. The Thal commander's smile vanished. His voice, once amused, turned sharp with rage. He ordered every ship to destroy the intruder. But the more they pressed, the harder the Resolute fought. Its hull glowed red with damage, smoke filled its corridors, yet the humans did not give in. Every strike they made was desperate, but every strike was effective. Against impossible numbers, they carved a path through the enemy line. By the time the battle ended, the void was littered with burning wrecks. The Resolute limped away, its engines broken, its shields gone, its crew battered. But it was alive. It had not surrendered. It had not been destroyed. Against an entire fleet, a single human warship had survived. The report of that clash spread quickly. The Thal tried to hide their defeat, but rumors could not be silenced. Traders carried the story across the stars. A single ship, a single crew, a single victory against impossible odds. The Elders' warning began to echo once more. Humanity would not be stopped. In the council chamber, the younger members still mocked the idea. They claimed it was luck. They claimed the Thal had been careless, but others began to shift uneasily in their seats. What if the humans were not luck? What if this was only the beginning? Meanwhile, on Earth, the news of the Resolute's return spread like fire. The crew were celebrated as heroes, but their victory was more than pride. It was proof that humanity could stand in the void against powers older and greater. Proof that no empire, no fleet, no ancient power could silence the human will. From that day, more ships were built. More crews trained, colonies pushed further into dangerous systems, no longer afraid of who might try to stop them. Humanity had tasted defiance, and it only made them hungrier. The Thal licked their wounds and swore revenge. The Council whispered of danger but still refused to act. And across the galaxy, races who had once dismissed the humans now began to watch them closely. Fear was growing. The elders sat in silence, their ancient eyes filled with sorrow. They had warned the galaxy. They had spoken the truth. And now, as the first sparks of war spread, they knew the stars would burn brighter than ever before. The Resolute had returned home damaged but undefeated. Its victory over the Thal patrol was celebrated on Earth as proof that humanity could stand against the mighty empires of the stars. But outside of Earth, in the quiet halls of alien councils and empires, the news was far from celebration. It was fear. At first, the Thal tried to hide their failure. They told their people that the human ship had escaped only by accident, that it was luck and nothing more. But fragments of the truth escaped. Merchants who saw wreckage drifting in the void carried stories. Drifters spoke of human survivors who refused to surrender even when their ship burned. Slowly, the truth spread across systems like smoke rising after a fire. The galaxy was listening now. In the chambers of the Great Council, voices clashed. Some still dismissed the humans. They claimed that one victory meant nothing. They pointed out that Earth had only a few ships, only a few colonies. They are too small, one voice argued. Let them burn brightly for a short time. They will fade soon enough, but others were not so sure. They had seen the pattern. They had read the scattered reports. A mining colony that survived conditions no alien would endure. A settlement that fought off raiders with nothing but tools. And now a warship that escaped a fleet by using tactics no one had imagined. The pieces formed a picture that some could no longer ignore. The humans do not fight like us, one elder said. They fight as if every battle is life itself. They adapt. They endure. If we do not take them seriously, we will regret it. Outside the council, the empires began to whisper. The great Thal fleets reinforced their borders. Other races prepared their patrols. The humans had become a subject of discussion in every trading post and every shadowed corner of the galaxy. And with every word, fear grew. Back on Earth, the reaction was different. The victory of the Resolute became a symbol. Children in the colonies spoke of it with pride. Young men and women lined up to join the fleets. Shipyards worked without rest, hammering metal and pouring fire into new vessels. Humanity did not see the battle as luck. They saw it as destiny. The next clashes came quickly. Human ships entered border systems again, not to provoke, but because they refused to stay behind invisible lines drawn by alien rulers. Each time they were challenged, they fought back. Sometimes they lost, but even in defeat they did not break. Their ships limped home or died in fire, but they left scars on their enemies that could not be ignored. Soon, a disturbing truth became clear. Humanity was learning faster than anyone else. Every battle taught them something new. A failed tactic was never repeated. A weakness discovered once was turned into a strength the next time. It was as if each human crew carried not only their own knowledge, but the knowledge of every ship that had fought before them. Alien commanders who faced humans once found themselves outmatched when facing them again. And this frightened them more than anything else. Whispers turned to warnings. Traders said humanity's fleets were multiplying. Scouts reported new colonies rising on worlds no other species wanted. Rumors claimed humans were experimenting with weapons no one had dared to build. Fear became so sharp that empires began to look at one another with suspicion. If humanity was rising, who would be the first to fall before them? The elders watched all of this with heavy silence. They had spoken the warning before, but no one had listened. Now, as the galaxy began to feel the truth, the elders knew it was already too late. The fire had been lit, and it was spreading faster than any council could control. The Thal Empire, humiliated by their early defeats, swore to end humanity before it grew too strong. They began building a massive fleet. They promised their people that this would be the final answer to the human problem. Across the stars, other empires watched with both hope and fear. If the Thal destroyed the humans, order would return. If the Thal failed, then every empire would face a truth none wanted to admit, that humanity could not be stopped. Back on Earth, the shipyards burned with light through endless nights. The new warship, larger and more powerful than the Resolute, neared completion. Its hull was black as the void, Its weapons fierce, its engines like thunder. Humanity named it Vanguard. The galaxy shivered at the name. Suspense ending. On the day the Vanguard left its docks, scouts reported that the Thal fleet, thousands of ships strong, was moving. It was coming for Earth. The galaxy held its breath, waiting to see if the warning of the Elders would become a prophecy of fire. The galaxy had waited for the Thal fleet to crush the humans. It was said that when the Thal moved their warships, no power could resist them. They carried the weight of centuries of conquest, the arrogance of a people who had never lost a war. Their fleet stretched across the stars like a black wall, thousands of ships, each bristling with weapons. The galaxy believed the story was over before it began, but humanity had other plans. On Earth, the new warship Vanguard roared into the void. It was larger than the Resolute, its weapons forged with desperate hands, its hull hardened with lessons learned from every loss. Its crew did not carry fear, they carried fire. And behind it came more ships, rough but strong, built in hidden shipyards across colonies that refused to bow. The human fleet was not yet vast, but it was alive with spirit that no enemy could measure. The Thal marched into the Sol system with fury. Their commanders expected surrender, not resistance. They had studied human ships and called them crude. They had studied human tactics and called them chaos. They believed humans were reckless children that only needed to be disciplined. What they did not understand was that chaos was humanity's strength. The first clash came near the asteroid belt. The Thal fleet moved with perfect order, ships aligned in flawless formations. The humans scattered like sparks. They used asteroids as cover, slingshotting around rocks and using gravity to confuse sensors. The Thal fired in anger, blasting stone into dust, but each time they thought they had trapped their enemy, the humans slipped away and struck from another angle. The Vanguard led from the front. Its captain refused to hide, charging headlong into fire that should have torn the ship apart. But the Vanguard endured, shields breaking and rebuilding, hull groaning but holding. Its guns spoke like thunder, tearing holes in ships that had stood unbeaten for centuries. The Thal commanders raged. They threw more ships into the fight, trying to crush the humans with numbers, and yet the more they pressed, the stronger humanity seemed to become. Every human crew fought as if the battle was personal, as if the survival of their race depended on their courage alone. In truth, it did. Hours turned into days. Battles raged across moons, planets, and empty space. Human ships fell, burning in silence, but even in their death they dragged enemy vessels down with them. For every human loss, 2 Thal ships followed into the grave. The void became a graveyard of wreckage lit by flames that refused to fade. Word spread fast. The galaxy listened in shock. The humans were not breaking. The humans were not fleeing. They were advancing. System by system, they pushed outward, not only surviving but gaining ground. And with every victory, more voices in the galaxy began to question what they once mocked. The Council, once filled with laughter at the Elders' warnings, now sat in silence. The fear that had grown in shadows now stood clear. The humans were not a passing storm. They were a rising tide, a tide that nothing could hold back. Alliances began to fracture. Some empires considered joining the Thal to end the human threat. Others whispered of abandoning the fight, of seeking peace before it was too late. But the humans did not wait for diplomacy. They kept moving forward, unstoppable, driven by something the galaxy could not understand. It was not hunger for power. It was not greed for control. It was survival, the will to endure, the need to prove that no chain could bind them. The same fire that once burned in their history on Earth now burned brighter among the stars. Alien spies returned with chilling reports. Human engineers worked without rest, turning every scrap of metal into weapons. Colonies that should have fallen instead turned into fortresses. Where humans bled, they built. Where humans lost, they learned. Their technology advanced with frightening speed, forged not by comfort but by necessity. Soon, alien fleets that once dismissed humanity began to retreat. They claimed it was strategy, but deep inside they knew the truth. They were afraid. The elders sat in their chamber, watching events unfold. Their voices were soft, filled with sorrow. The warning was given, one whispered, and ignored. Now the galaxy will reap what it has sown. Suspense ending. Beyond the front lines, scouts reported something even more terrifying. Humanity was building not just ships but an entire armada, bigger than anything yet seen, stronger than anything imagined, and it was no longer about survival. Humanity was preparing to lead. The galaxy had watched with disbelief as humanity rose from the edge of nothing to stand against the strongest fleets in known space. The Thal had promised to end them, yet the Thal now bled across the stars. System after system that was meant to be the grave of humankind had become the foundation of their growing power. What began as whispers of resistance had turned into a truth that no empire could deny. Humanity could not be stopped. Still, the galaxy was not ready to surrender to this truth. An alliance of the greatest empires gathered their fleets. They had once fought each other for territory, for wealth, for pride, but now they came together with one purpose: to break humanity before it was too late. Their fleets numbered in the tens of thousands. Their weapons were the most advanced in the galaxy. Their leaders promised their people that this battle would end the human threat once and for all. The humans knew they were outnumbered. They knew they were outgunned. But they did not fear. From Earth to the colonies scattered across distant stars, every man, woman, and child understood what was at stake. If they faltered, if they gave up, they would not simply lose, they would vanish. Humanity would not allow that. The human armada gathered in silence. Dozens of warships, rough but strong, moved into formation. At their heart was the Vanguard, its black hull gleaming with scars from past battles. Around it, new ships burned with light. Born from sleepless nights in hidden shipyards, they were not perfect, but they carried something no machine could measure: the spirit of a species that had never learned how to kneel. The final battle began on the edge of a dying star. The Allied fleets came like a storm, their weapons tearing the void apart. The human ships stood their ground, shields cracking, hulls breaking, but they did not retreat. Each human crew fought as if their blood itself fueled the engines. Explosions lit the darkness, turning the star system into a sea of fire. The enemy expected humanity to crumble quickly under the weight of such power. But humanity did not crumble. They adapted. They struck where the enemy was weakest. They sacrificed ships to open paths for others. They used every fragment of knowledge, every lesson of survival learned across centuries of struggle. For every human ship that burned, another pushed forward. For every life lost, humanity's will grew harder. The Vanguard led the charge into the center of the enemy formation. Its captain's voice was steady, carrying through the comms with calm fire. "We are humanity. We have been warned of defeat before. We have been told to surrender before, but we do not bow. We do not break. Today we show the stars why we endure." The ship roared into the heart of the enemy, guns blazing, tearing apart ships twice its size. Around it, human vessels fought with a ferocity that shocked even their allies turned enemies. Alien commanders who once mocked humanity now stared in silence as their fleets broke against the iron will of a race they once called children. Hours became days, and still the humans fought. The battlefield was filled with wreckage, but the humans refused to vanish. The Allied fleets began to waver. For every human ship destroyed, another seemed to rise from the fire. Their losses grew unbearable, and the order that once bound them unraveled. And then it happened. The Allied fleets, proud empires that had stood for centuries, began to retreat. Their commanders could no longer deny what they had seen with their own eyes. Humanity was not a storm that could be endured until it passed. Humanity was a tide that would keep rising, no matter how many walls stood against it. When the battle ended, silence fell across the galaxy. The humans were bloodied, broken, scarred, but they were still standing. Their armada remained. Their fire remained. Their will remained. Against impossible odds, they had faced the greatest powers of the galaxy and survived. The elders, who had spoken the first warning, now stood in sorrowful silence. They had been right from the beginning, but they had not been heeded. The galaxy had chosen arrogance over wisdom, and now the truth was clear. Humanity could not be stopped. On Earth, celebrations filled the skies, but even in victory, humanity did not boast. They looked to the stars with the same determination as before. For them, this was not the end of a war. It was the beginning of an age where humanity would no longer ask permission to exist among the stars, an age where humanity would lead, not follow.